Oh my God, do I just start all over?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's so weird without the music.
Without the music. I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. I wish I could like play it for you.
I'm ready.
We should have, you want another thing? It's not here. Hold on. Here. Dun, 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 dun.
Welcome to another week of Case Files.
With Kat.
And Ashley.
Yeah.
Woo. Anyways,
How's that for a cold open?
One day we'll get it together. I don't know when, but someday.
Oh man, you know, I'm glad everyone listening. I'm glad you and everyone listening. We all come here to listen to these crazy stories about people.
Yeah.
Right. I'm looking them up. There's no shortage of that. Mm-hmm. But like the weirdness of us all.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not entertainment. It's like, it's education. I want to know what's possible. I want to know for myself how to keep myself safe. I want to know, like, that's sort of obsessive.
The person I talk about today, she has a really good quote on why she thinks why other people are fascinated by like true crime stuff.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. Yeah. Is it people she talks about, or is she talking about like women?
She's talking about people in general, like why people in general are kind of like drawn to true crime.
Yeah, why are we? Oh my gosh, I'm interested to hear about it. For me, it's like it's education.
Yeah.
Just as, and you know, like, how can I help things be better? Maybe there's lobbying I could do, or advocacy in other ways I could do.
For me, it's like, I would like to pretend that if I was in that situation, I'm trained, but then I'm like, I would forget every fucking thing I have learned instantly. My anxiety would I would just be like, you know what, can you just shoot me now? Like, can we just get it over with?
So you're a freeze. The fight, flight, or freeze. You think you would just freeze?
Probably. I'd probably annoy them with my questions. You know, I'd be trying to instruct them, hey, I saw this exact scenario on this TV show. So would you like my advice on, like, you know, maybe we can do some run-throughs of like how this will play out?
You're like, you could go.
Get out of the car.
You could go. Just go. Just go.
And my anxiety would kick me, like, what? You don't like me? Am I talking too much? Like, you know what? I'll just be quiet. My bad. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt your kidnapping.
Keith Morrison is going to love this.
So, you know,
this is great Keith Morrison story. Like, yeah, that's funny. I think I would be a freeze because I'm not going to be able to run faster than anybody. Yeah. So if it was like a bear chasing us, like, I would just be like, y'all go save yourselves, because I'm not fast, and that's it. But just go, just go. I got this. Remember me, you know. But I think I honestly don't know if that I would fight back.
I 1000% know that I probably would not. I'm definitely not running anywhere. My knee is so messed. Like, I would not be able to run anywhere.
What I would do is like leave clues. You know, I would make sure I scratched them. I would make sure I left hair. I would make sure, you know what I mean? Like, I would do things. That's what I feel like.
Oh, my hair's going to be everywhere. So if someone takes me, they just might as well give up.
I know. It's like I'm a cat. There's just, my hair is everywhere. My poor vacuum. My
skin is dry and flaky. My hair is everywhere. Like, you're not going to convince anyone you didn't take me.
You didn't take, I know. Like, how did you get all of this? That's so funny. All right. Well, so what's your story?
So, I wanted to talk about someone. So we talk a lot about true crime, the serial killers, the murderers, all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of wanted to do something different tonight.
Awesome.
And talk about some women who were very pivotal in changing the way we catch those people.
Ooh.
And so the main story is going to be about this forensic nurse that helped with criminal profiling, but then I'm going to talk a little bit about several other women that are really worth looking into who also did amazing things. And so I just felt like it's important to kind of, because a lot of times these women don't actually get the recognition
At
for
all.
what they did
At all. Right. Yeah.
Someone else takes credit for
100%.
it. And anyways, so
See, Dolly Parton sang about that 9 to 5.
yeah. So like I mentioned, you know, we always get asked about the true crime and the people who listen to them and why are you so fascinated? And so, like I said, this woman had a really good quote, and she says, "I think it's a human factor. I don't see anything wrong with it. There's a fascination to try to understand why people commit these horrifying crimes. How can people do these things? But I also like to think people like to play detective a little bit. I think it's normal. You don't want to be fooled. You don't want to become a victim. So what can you learn to avoid it?" So
that's what I said. Yeah. I don't want to be fooled. But I guess I do like playing detective.
Well, and I think a lot of true crime podcasts, and like we like to, as much as possible, talk about the victims and who they were, and kind of give their names out a little bit more and talk more about them. So you know, I think that's important. Yeah. And so, anyways, I'm gonna get into it.
Okay.
So this woman was amazing at what she did for profiling. Excuse me. So at the time when the FBI had no real baseline for understanding violent criminals, Ann Burgess, her research changed everything.
Ann
Burgess.
Okay.
So a lot of the information comes from this really amazing profile that the Boston College magazine did on her, because that's where she's a professor at, and she went to college there. They just do a really great job at highlighting her and all of the things that she has done in her career. So Anne would become a pioneer in many things, including the methods used to assess and treat the victims of trauma and abuse, the way that crimes and criminals are classified by the modern day criminal justice system. She helped to change the way that rape is understood by law enforcement and played a leading role in transforming the FBI's approach to investigating serial killers. Over the course of her career, she sat in so many courtroom cases and gave testimony in dozens of high-profile cases against even some of the people that we've talked about. And if you've ever watched the show Mindhunters,
yes,
the TV series, the character who was based on her was Dr. Wendy Carr.
Okay.
But Anne was quoted in an interview saying the Hollywood part of the show is far afield from the way she is. She said the cases and how they're portrayed and how they portrayed them, she said that was pretty good, but that Dr. Carr is a psychologist and not a nurse, which Anne said that change was a missed opportunity because Anne was a nurse. She wasn't a psychiatrist. And she just felt like the character did not really, it didn't really show all of that she contributed. It wasn't really her, even though it was supposed to be based on her.
I feel like, I mean, they used the real guys, right? Those other two were, I mean, like, why not? I mean, I feel like the character of a nurse brings so much more heart.
So she went on to say the general public doesn't really understand some of the advanced practices of nursing, such as academics or research. The good news is that the show gives me a chance every time that I'm asked about it to explain what nursing and forensics can be.
Awesome.
So that's how she kind of turns what she said wasn't really factual into a talking opportunity.
Yeah.
And when we think of nursing, she's right. I mean, most people just think of the nurses you see in the hospital. You don't think about the forensics side of what they can do. And so Anne was born on October 2nd, 1936
Libra.
in Massachusetts. She mentioned in interviews that when she was a young woman, the only career choices for women were jobs like being a teacher, a secretary, or a nurse.
Wow.
Now, she chose to become a nurse. For her, she said this was the natural choice. She had 3 uncles that had become doctors, and when she was around 10 or 11, her Uncle Frank, which she describes him as a country doctor, which I think are the ones that would make house calls,
small town.
He would let her start helping him deliver babies.
How cool.
And so she earned her Bachelor of Science from Boston University, her Master of Science from the University of Maryland, and her Doctor of Nursing Science from Boston University. When she first began the nursing program, she recalled that they told the nurses, look to your right and look to your left. they probably won't be here when you graduate. The clinical work was both physically and emotionally grueling. And actually, I will say, I did look that up, and that quote is often said a lot. Like, most people don't make it out of nursing school.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I've heard it about other...
Or med school in general.
Yeah, I've heard it about other professions. Yeah.
So the clinical work was both physically and emotionally grueling, which is why many prospective nurses would quit. But Ann said that she loved everything about nursing, especially once her clinical work had her in the psychiatric unit at the Massachusetts Mental Health Center. She was, and I'm quoting here, fascinated by human behavior and the variations that you can have, she said. I could not learn enough. Spending all of those years studying human behavior gave me some very particular insights that a criminal makes, like insights into the choices that a criminal makes.
Oh, wow.
So in an article by Boston College Magazine, Ann said, did you know that there are many, many reasons a person might choose to dismember another person? They used to just say dismemberment happened. Well, you've got to look into it more. You get into the people's heads. What is their thinking? How do they put stuff together? It was that sort of work that Ann pioneered. Her interest in the criminals began with her interest in the victims, because as the nurse, that's who she saw, was the victims. And she and her colleagues were often the first medical professionals to see the victims after a crime, and therefore best positioned to observe their behaviors and reactions. Now, Ann was introduced to a woman named Linda Holdstrom, and she was a sociologist at the university in 1969 when Ann became an assistant professor at Boston College. Now, Linda was interested in publishing a study about the victims of rape and sexual abuse, a group that at that time had largely been ignored by psychologists and law enforcement. Linda was quoted in that same Boston College Magazine article stating the attitudes towards rape at that time were that it was not talked about, or if it was, there was a blame the victim mentality, which honestly has not changed much.
I mean,
we were interested in changing that perception. Her and Ann, they set up a counseling program at the Boston City Hospital that would allow them to interview all the rape victims that wanted to be interviewed. Now, for a year, every time a victim was admitted, both Ann and Linda would drive immediately to the hospital.
Wow.
Ann stated we were able to go right in and see them. It was very different from the way that the research was typically done, but it's how we were able to describe the syndrome that we were seeing. Together, they interviewed 146 rape victims ranging in ages from 3 to 73. They published their findings in They published their findings in a 1973 American Journal of Nursing article titled "The Rape Victim in the Emergency Ward." This paper was among the first that would suggest that rape was more about power and control than sex, and to call attention to the way that police, health institutions, and the criminal justice system treated victims. Ann and Linda called for widespread implementation of crisis counseling for victims and provided information to help doctors and other clinical staff recognize the signs of rape, important for instances when patients didn't mention an attack. Like they didn't mention it, maybe they couldn't mention it. So it was important to know the signs. So their paper was also introduced into the scientific literature, the term rape trauma syndrome, which is still used to describe the physical and psychological reactions of victims, such as anxiety, muscle tension, and self-blame. Their article had another major effect, one that would just send the trajectory of Ann's career soaring, because this article is what led to the FBI calling her for her assistance.
And not Linda?
No, because Ann was more of the forensic nurse.
Okay.
And Linda was a sociologist.
Oh,
more
okay.
Of like this, so they were
the
more
yeah. Okay, cool.
She was more like this. She wasn't. Ann was more of the person who wanted to be front and center,
Yeah.
talking about helping victims, whereas Linda was more trying to study
Yeah.
and inform papers and stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so in 1978, FBI Director William Webster called Ann and invited her to the FBI Academy to teach agents about what talking to victims had helped her learn about rapists. Ann began spending time in Quantico, Virginia, leading classes about how to talk to victims, how to catalog, and how to interpret the information that came from those interview sessions. In the afternoons after teaching, she would sit with agents who were working on unsolved cases, and they'd use evidence collected from the crime scenes to try to compile information about the offender, such as his age, occupation, place of residence, and mindset. Now, at the time, the FBI agents John Douglas and Robert Ressler had already begun to try to understand the criminal mind by conducting interviews with imprisoned serial killers. Now, that is the Mindhunter TV series. So Douglas became interested in a study that Ann had recently conducted. This one was about predicting heart attacks in men with certain variables. John wanted to know whether Ann's methods could be used to understand the variables that might contribute to the making not of a heart attack, but of a murderer. To Ann, teaming up with John and Robert would mean the chance to expand on what she had learned from the rape study about violent offenders and the victims they chose. The project would also allow her to contribute a much-needed female perspective to the world of investigation, sexualized male and female crime, because at that time, it was mostly all male officers, male examiners, the chief, the chief of medical staff. All of these people were mostly males. Doctors were mostly males.
Wow.
At this time.
Yeah.
Now, she had said there were victims that I wanted to speak for because they didn't survive. So that was her big thing, was always trying to help the victims of these crimes. That was her main focus all the time. Ann would agree to help John and Robert, but insisted everything had to be done properly. She explained that they needed to formalize, record, and publish their research in order for it to be taken seriously enough to lead to changes in how law enforcement agencies would investigate crimes. Ann officially signed on in 1980, and the team was able to expand its work thanks in a large part to Ann's successful efforts to secure funding from the Department of Justice. She is the one that got the funding. She is the one that fought for this program, for this kind of research, and got the money for it.
Who runs the world?
Working together, they created a new system in which offenders and their crimes were placed on a spectrum between organized, such as premeditated or planned, and disorganized, which is careless or impulsive, which told investigators a lot about who they were looking for. They also examined the motive and methods of 36 serial killers in order to create a criminal profiling procedure. Their work resulted in a series of influential papers and books, including Sexual Homicide Patterns and Motives, Crime Classification Manual, a standard system for investigating and classifying violent crime. And the team was also the first to establish a connection between a serial killer's past trauma and his crimes.
Ooh.
It was the first time anyone looked in a very systematic way at relatively serious crimes. And this is a quote from a Denver-based forensic psychologist named Susan J. Lewis. She said in that Boston College magazine interview, she said it provided a menu of options still followed today, and the research was what validated it. Before that, trying to figure out motive was hit or miss, and very often just sort of blamed on mental illness, even when that might not necessarily have been the case. One of the cases Ann worked on was the ski mask rapist, whose MO involved breaking into homes, tying up the victims, and raping them in front of any men in the home before robbing them. Ann and the agent studied his progression from the earliest to the most recent rapes. They thought the ski mask rapist was escalating towards murder, because at that point he was just raping and robbing.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, is that what they were looking for?
And so Ann participated in a group session that led a criminal profile of the culprit, a man in his late 20s or early 30s, never married, meticulous about details, in good physical shape, who was educated, had likely served in the military, and saw himself as an alpha male. The profile was distributed to the police departments in the areas where the ski mask rapist had been active, leading very quickly to the arrest of John Barry Simonis in Lake Charles, Louisiana, who matched the profile in nearly every aspect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Anne soon found herself involved with another troubling case involving the kidnapping and murder of 2 young boys in Nebraska. 13-year-old Danny, and he was taken while delivering newspapers on his paper route, and 12-year-old Christopher, 13-year-old Danny Eberly and 12-year-old Christopher Walden.
Okay.
Now, Danny's body was found in a patch of grass along a gravel road, stripped to his undershorts, with hands and feet bound, with multiple stab wounds indicating he had been tortured to death.
Oh, my God.
Now, Christopher's body was better concealed and had not been bound, but his throat had been slashed so deeply as to almost decapitate him.
And they were 12 and
13.
Oh.
Now, Robert and John worked up a criminal profile with the help of Ann and other agents, which led them to a third unsolved killing in Maine of 11-year-old Ricky Stetson, who had also been stabbed, bitten, and strangled. Ann said the evidence pointed to the victims trusting the killer, so she profiled him as a teacher, coach, or scout leader. She also noted that he may be interested in detective magazines, as that was a common pattern with similar serial killers.
What?
That profile and other evidence led to the arrest of John Jubert, who confessed to all 3 murders. Now, he did receive a life sentence in Maine and the death penalty in Nebraska, which he was executed on July 17th, 1996. And it was later confirmed that John was an assistant scoutmaster, and in his belongings was a detective magazine that was dog-eared on a page about a young newspaper boy being abducted. She was spot on the profiles once again. These profiles, Anne was pretty spot on. She was a forensics nurse. So another horrible case involved 2 young girls, one of whom survived. On June 2nd, 1985, Melissa Ackerman and her friend Opal Horton, they were riding their bikes in Illinois when a man in a blue AMC Gremlin pulled over and asked for directions. He grabbed Opal first, tossing her in the front seat of the car, and then grabbed Melissa. Now, Opal managed to jump out an open window and escape, hiding in a tractor tire at a nearby John Deere dealership.
Oh, my gosh.
Melissa was not as fortunate, and her body was found 15 days later. Police arrested a man named Brian Dugan, who drove a blue AMC Gremlin, but they needed more evidence to link him to Melissa's murder. Anne had the I don't know how to say this. She had the hard task of interviewing the traumatized Opal. As you can imagine, this girl's friend gets murdered. I'm sure she's feeling guilty because she ran and she hid and she survived. So she was trying to draw out as many details as the little girl could remember about the man who abducted Melissa. She had Opal draw pictures as they talked about what happened that day.
God, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anne felt that it would be easier for a child to draw pictures. So she was one of the first to kind of start this. Like, she thought it would be easier for a child to draw a picture.
Play therapy.
Versus,
art therapy,
being interviewed by an officer. So Opal was also able to draw the crime scene and what she was feeling during that time. Police used Opal's description and sketch of the car to arrest Brian, who was convicted and received a life sentence. DNA evidence later did confirm that he was responsible for the murder of another 10-year-old girl in 1983.
Oh my gosh.
Now,
oh my gosh.
This was a case that still haunts Anne to this day. So constant exposure to the worst of human behavior can take a mental toll. I think we could all understand how that could happen. You hear all the time about first responders who, have breakdowns, they commit suicide. But Anne has worked hard to strike a balance between the horrors that she works every day, like what she would see, and maintaining a healthy, wholesome family life. She was married with several children. She credits her nursing background with helping her to learn how to compartmentalize. Oh my God, I don't know why I can speak. We see a lot of heartbreaking situations, but we can just listen and empathize, she said. We have tasks to do, as in we have victims to help.
Wow.
So after her work with the FBI, which I should note was not even her full-time job, Like
that
helping
wasn't?
profiling and sitting on these cases and helping them figure all this out and creating
She
all
just
these
did that for fun on the side.
It was a side gig
Oh my
because the
gosh.
entire time she was helping them do all of that, she was still serving as the Dean of Nursing Studies at Boston College and raising her children.
Oh my God.
Anyways,
I complained about how busy I am. I need to shut up.
So Anne continued to play a key role in other notable criminal cases. In 1993, she served as an expert defense witness in the first trial of Lyle and Eric Mendez. I think we all know who they are, but they were the brothers accused of murdering their parents in August of 1989. Anne interviewed Eric for roughly 50 hours.
50?
50, as part of her involvement in determining allegations of sexual abuse by their father, Jose, if they were valid or not, and an originating cause of the killings. Anne was convinced that the Mendez brothers were victims of trauma and violence from their parents, and while that was not an excuse to murder them, she helped the defense see it was a mitigating factor. Anne was tasked with explaining the impact of trauma to the jury through her testimony. And she said, trauma can manifest in many ways that are emotional, physical, behavioral, cognitive, or even a mix of all four. I'd seen the full spectrum of trauma responses, which is how I was able to recognize it in Eric and Lyle in the first place. I wasn't trying to justify Lyle or Eric's actions or portray them as sympathetic figures. I was simply trying to show that the boys' actions, as illogical as they may seem to an outsider, made complete sense from a neurobiological perspective. Even though, as mentioned, she has testified in several cases. She describes testifying in the courtroom as daunting work. I put on my bulletproof vest. The one thing you don't want to do in a courtroom is show any emotion, especially anger, because juries don't like that. You have to detach yourself, which is what nurses do. As nurses, we must separate our personal feelings from whatever we're doing within a patient's situation. So I think that helped prepare me. The cross-examination is the most challenging part because the opposing side will always try to discredit you. I still get, well, you're not a psychiatrist. You're not a psychologist. You're just a nurse.
Ouch.
She was clearly more than just a nurse. And
That's
even
so
if she
disrespectful.
was just a nurse, like, nurses are fucking amazing. So to say just a nurse, like, I wouldn't even, like...
Nurses, like, run emergency rooms. Like, it's the... I feel like
so,
they're the ones doing all of it, you know? That's crazy.
So Anne always believed it was essential to approach cases, especially rape cases, with an open mind. Whether she is testifying on behalf of the prosecution or the defense, Anne stated her quest was always for the truth. Yes. She said, I'm not a victim's advocate. I'm an advocate for science, nursing science.
Yes, that's awesome.
This really came into play when she served on the 2006 case of the Duke University lacrosse team members accused of raping a local woman. The media, with the assistance of a district attorney seeking re-election, had already found the men guilty as charged. After a thorough review of the case, Anne was prepping to testify for the defense. She believed the accusations of sexual assault were false and was not surprised when the case fell apart and there was no trial.
Yep.
The woman who made the accusations confirmed in a 2024 interview that she had fabricated the accusations. Anne conducted a mental health examination of Andrea Constant, a woman who said Bill Cosby had sexually assaulted her in 2004. Anne issued a psychiatric evaluation of Andrea in preparation for the 2017 criminal trial against Bill. In her assessment, Anne wrote that Andrea had been sexually assaulted by Bill Cosby and suffered from chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. So there is a Hulu docuseries which Anne served as a consulting producer on. Just a side note, she was not involved at all with Mindhunters. They did not consult her at all.
Shut up. Are you serious?
And so
that's such bullshit.
And so the docuseries examines the thorough approach she has used and continues to use throughout her career in criminology.
What is that called?
It's called Mastermind to Think Like a Killer. Okay. So it's directed by Abby Fuller. And in an interview with Boston College, Abby spoke about the importance of sharing Anne's story and the influence on criminal personality study. Dr. Burgess's story is not...
It's on Hulu. Okay.
Yeah. It's a Hulu docuseries.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost my place.
Sorry.
No, okay. Abby spoke about the importance of sharing Ann's story and the influence on criminal personality study. Dr. Burgess's story is not just about studying the minds of serial killers. It's about understanding victims and believing victims. That's the thread I saw, she said. The series is about her entire career and the many ways she's influenced and shaped law enforcement and the courts and different systems. While the FBI has been famous for the likes of profilers, John Douglas and Robert Ressler, the agents that worked with Ann, her absence from public recognition until very recently, super hard to ignore, which is also why I wanted to highlight her.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Essentially, without her, I don't think they would have accomplished as much as they did. But the question is, why didn't the Bureau fully credit her work in criminal profiling? Well, what a great question.
What a great question, Kat. Why didn't the Bureau credit her?
Women are all too familiar with the answer. The FBI has been male-dominated, making it very difficult for women, especially Ann, as an academic, in other words, she wasn't law enforcement, to receive due credit in a field historically viewed as a boys' club. And although Dr. Ann wasn't an FBI agent herself, her psychological expertise developed hundreds of interviews with rape victims, and it was indispensable. That research that she learned from them was incredible. And she was able to match both halves of that equation, the behavior of serial perpetrators and why they chose their victims. Yet institutional misogyny overlooked her achievements in favor of the male agents in the field. And it wasn't until recent years with shows like Mindhunter that gained her attention, even though she wasn't involved in it. And they changed the character from who Ann was in real life. Again, she was a nurse, not a psychologist.
And she's not a lesbian. Is she?
I don't know. I think she's married to a man with children.
They made her. I mean, like, that was like her whole love life was her story, which is that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other series I mentioned though is really the one that gives Ann all of the attention and recognition that she deserves. It's the one I mentioned, Mastermind: To Think Like a Killer. It is a much more direct account of her groundbreaking research. It chronicles her partnership with the FBI, illustrating the challenges she faced in the environment, how she balanced her career. Yeah, how she balanced her career while raising her 4 children, and how her findings revolutionized the way violent criminals are tracked and apprehended. Now, the Hulu series really shows the story of how she helped create the criminal profiling unit and how her data-driven approach just really changed criminal psychology. I really recommend watching it.
I love that they did this about her, and
it's filmed by a woman, the director.
But I hate that her life wasn't represented because now people watch that show and they're just like, they know about these 2 individuals so much so that they will buy books. Yeah. Like, they are the experts, the only experts, like, from, it's like, well, there's someone else. What sucks?
In 2019, Ann worked on compiling her research on dismemberment and presented some of the findings at a conference in collaboration with the authors of The New Evil: Understanding the Emergence of Modern Violent Crime, for which she wrote the afterword. There's also another project she keeps in the back of her mind, one she started thinking about while corresponding with Henry Wallace, the serial killer awaiting execution in North Carolina. He ended up marrying a nurse while on death row, and Ann said, someone who was very interesting to talk to. She told me I didn't know the soft side of Henry. Ever the data collector, Ann keeps a PowerPoint about the women who marry death row inmates. And if work ever slows, she said, she may someday seek to determine what those women have in common. Mind you, all of this is just her side gig. All this criminal profiling, all of this additional research, all of these are just side projects, in addition to her being the dean of the nursing school and raising children and everything else. Ann has her own book that was published in 2021 called A Killer by Design: Murders, Mindhunters, and My Quest to Decipher the Criminal Mind, which offers deep insight to her work with serial killers.
That's awesome. Yay.
And while the FBI,
go buy it.
And while the FBI did basically ignore her contributions, her accomplishments were recognized by many other organizations.
Good.
Some of her awards include the Sigma Theta Tau too. International Audrey Hepburn Award, the American Nurses Association Award, the Living Legend by the American Academy of Nursing.
Ooh, nice.
And there's so many more. And the inaugural Ann Burgess Forensic Nursing Award by the International Association of Forensic Nurses.
That's awesome.
She's got a handful of more awards, and maybe even more now. But outside of her research, she has 2 sons and 2 daughters, and is married to her husband Alan. She is currently a professor and teaches a full course load at the Cornell School of Nursing. And she also mentors students in addition to everything else that she's doing. One of Ann's current areas of focus is threat assessment to prevent mass casualty events such as school shootings.
Oh, that's great.
We're seeing so many of these shootings that are going on, and we have to be able to get the red flags. There are so many warning signs, and that's all on social media. One way you can hopefully try to find out what's going on is to analyze what they're writing, because what they write is what they think. And we know that thinking is what drives behavior. So her granddaughter is named Alex and actually helps provide assistance in collecting data on mass shooter manifestos. She's also involved in a virtual international club called Super Sleuth that meets once a week via Zoom to analyze cold cases from all over the world. We have people from all walks of life. We have pathologists, we have detectives, nurses. Bringing everyone's expertise to one case is very important. Sometimes we solve them. I really encourage people to do that. People can start their own Super Sleuth club.
Wow.
So that's Ann.
Guess what we're doing?
That's a brief,
who wants to join?
Yeah.
Let's start one.
That's a brief of all of the things that Ann has done.
That's amazing.
And I'm going to talk about the other women now who are also amazing. But Ann just did so much that, she's so amazing. And she's still doing it. She's still out there doing it. So one woman I want to talk about is Frances Lee. She was an American forensic scientist, and she was influential in developing the science of forensics in the U.S. She created the Nutshell Studies of Unexplained Death, which is 20 true crime scene dioramas recreated in a minute detail at a dollhouse scale used for training homicide investigators. So she would create these crime scenes in a dollhouse,
wow.
And they would use those to
figure out
teach them what to look for.
Oh, interesting.
And so 18 of those 22 original dioramas of the Nutshell Studies of Unexplained Death are still in use for teaching purposes.
Wow.
She also helped to establish the Department of Legal Medicine at Harvard University, and she became the first female police captain in the United States and is known as the mother of forensic science.
Wow.
She's badass on her own. I could probably do a whole
story on her.
She's amazing. So then the second person is Dame Sue Black. And now she is a dame because she is from England, and they gave her
that's great
title.
That's awesome.
But she's a world-renowned forensics anthropologist. She played a vital role in identifying war crime victims and pioneered techniques to identify individuals using unique vein patterns on their hands. In addition to war crime victims, she helped identify victims in the Tsunami Victim Identification Operation, the Thai to Tsunami Victim Identification Operation in 2005, and the Australian Disaster Victim Identification Project in 2004. She has been an innovator in developing techniques and building databases to confirm or disconfirm someone's identity based on photographs of their hands or arms, and this technique has become important for the persecution of pedophiles, because they often take pictures and share pictures of their actions, and you can see their hands and arms in those pictures.
Oh.
Now, she was in 2009, she used her vein pattern analysis to confirm the identity of a suspected child abuser who then pled guilty. It was the first time that the technique was used in a criminal conviction. She was the director of the Center for International Forensics Assistance and founder of the British Association of Human Identification and the British Association for Forensics and Anthropology, and she is currently the president at St. John's College, Oxford. But
oh my goodness,
her technique of being able to identify people, because apparently the veins in your hand are unique to you. And so they use that to identify people in pictures that don't show their faces.
Oh, wow.
So
we just taught a bunch of people how to not do that. Wear gloves, I guess.
Well, they'll find you, because there's a million amazing other women who have created techniques.
Yeah.
Marty Goddard, there we go, is a crime victims advocate who conceptualized the standardized evidence collection method in the 1970s, where an estimated 16,000 women were raped each year, and the police often would not believe the victims. Only a tenth of this number were reported, and they rarely resulted in arrest. She learned from the police that the evidence collected in hospitals from rape victims was often incomplete or poorly gathered. To improve the changes of offenders being identified and sentenced, she developed the concept and organization of a rape kit, a standardized way of collecting and preserving forensic evidence for the victims of rape. Now, she originally brought this idea to Louis R. Vitullo, who worked in the Chicago police lab.
Because nobody would listen to her, because she was a woman.
And he rejected her. He yelled at her, told her it was stupid. But then he proceeded to develop his own rape kit and took all the credit for the invention.
It helped him eventually. What happened is it helped him, and they're like, please just help us, and we'll put your name on it.
Well, according to the research I read, it said that
he literally... I don't know.
I don't know, but the research I read said that she brought it to him, he rejected it, and then he proceeded to develop a kit very similar to her design, not hers, but very similar, and took personal credit for the invention.
She worked with him to get it done, and she just stayed in the back. It's awful. She just watched him, and they were like partners, and he was like...
I guess that's what they mean by he took the credit.
Yes.
Like, he took all of the credit for it.
100%, and she was fine with that at the time. Now, she died of...
Yeah. In the mid-1970s, Martha founded the Citizens Committee for Victim Assistance, which advocated and sought funding for the distribution of rape kits. She continued to advocate for the rights of sexual assault victims through the 1980s.
Where she drifted into obscurity. I hate that. She was so sad.
Dr. Joy Carter is a groundbreaking medical examiner.
Joy Carter?
Joy Carter. She became the first woman and first African American to be appointed as chief medical examiner in the United States.
Wow.
She was also the first graduate of Harvard University to become board certified in forensics pathology. She was also the first female chief medical examiner in the state of Texas, and she was the first African American female to be appointed Deputy Chief Medical Examiner of the Armed Forces Medical Examiner System.
Whoa.
She did great things.
That's a lot of glass breaking.
She said that. She said she's like, anytime I'm the first, I'm also the first African American woman or whatever. And she didn't take offense to that. She was very proud of her work. She worked really hard in what she did. And she did a lot for forensics pathology.
Brava.
The next woman is Angela, I'm going to butcher this, Angela Gallop, Gallop.
Gallop.
I'm really sorry. We all know I can't talk.
Like scallop.
That's how I took it. Angela Gallop. I tried to look up how to say it, and I couldn't find anyone saying it. Anyways, so Angela, she transformed the way we approach criminal investigations. She pioneered advanced DNA profiling and analytical techniques helping to solve complex modern murder cases. Her expertise has been instrumental in unraveling the complexities of numerous high-profile cases, demonstrating an unparalleled ability to discern crucial details from forensics evidence. She has worked on major cases, including the death of Princess Diana. But she was really the pioneer for DNA profiling. She really worked like advanced DNA profiling.
That's awesome.
And those different techniques. She worked on a lot of murder cases. Marie Van Britten Brown, she was a nurse who invented the first home security system in 1966. She lived in a high crime neighborhood with a slow police response time. So she designed a CCTV system equipped with sliding cameras, monitors, and an emergency alarm button that would directly contact police.
Wow.
Because as a nurse, she often saw victims of home invasions or women who, homes have been broken into or whatever, not just women, but victims of robberies and whatever else. Yeah. And so she invented this home security system in 1966. And then the last woman I'm going to talk about, because there's so many, is Bessie Griffin. And she was a physical therapist and forensics handwriting analyst who in 1969 became the chief examiner for forensics police departments in Virginia. And she began using her expertise to expose embezzlement and forgery because she could analyze handwriting.
That's amazing.
And so I've got links to...
Is it like to compare handwriting?
Compare handwriting to... So one of her big studies was... One of her big studies was you could tell someone's physical health or mental health by their handwriting. And she produced a lot of handwriting pathology, like papers and guides. And so a lot of what her background was studying people's handwritings, and it was used for like helping war crimes or helping things like history, like validating things from history, like writings from history. But her big contribution was becoming the chief examiner for the forensics police departments and exposing embezzlement and forgery.
Who are these people keeping journals though before they commit a crime? That's amazing.
But so those are the women those are some of the most pivotal women in forensics, like police profiling, helping solve murders and crimes, and helping victims. They were all really big on helping victims. Most of these women were nurses, if you didn't realize that.
Yes,
nurses, chief medical examiners.
There's only a few that were
there was only a few of them that were psychologists, but most of them were nurses.
Wow.
They were just nurses. Doing all this other stuff on the side. These were all pretty much side gigs for these women. Like, it's amazing. Like, they were all doing so much. There's no shortage of amazing women that have helped create things to help us catch criminals and help victims. And I do have some links in the show notes if you want to research more of them. I highly recommend that Hulu docuseries on Ann.
I am watching that tonight.
Yeah, it's amazing. These women were absolutely amazing. And so I wanted to highlight some of them because they are very pivotal in the stories that we talk about, where we talk about they invented some of the techniques that caught the serial killers and stuff that we talk about. So,
well, thank you. That was educational, and it makes me just proud to be a woman. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. They were wow. Well, when
you see something missing, you just do it.
Yeah, you
figure it out.
You figure it out. You bring the solution. That's amazing that all these women saw the problem. But, it makes me kind of want to think about, like, what about, so in the 70s, there was this, like, it seemed like there was a plethora of serial killers. What was their trauma? Why were there so many? And, like, the trauma of they experienced by the generation before them. Yeah. What does that say about those people? Like, the trauma they must have experienced to then, I mean...
Yeah, and so that was a big thing for, like I said, for Ann, was
the cycle of violence.
Yeah, that was a big thing for Ann, is understanding the trauma that led to their actions, not excusing their actions.
No, not excusing,
but going into that nurture versus nature type thing of what they experienced, because some of the murders may have been justified. Some of them obviously were not, but that was her goal, to make sure that if someone was being charged for a murder, that they should actually be charged for. She wasn't always just for one side or the other. Like she said, she took her emotions out of it. She kept it straight to the facts. And she always did that, no matter what. Yeah.
That's gotta be hard to do. More power to all of these people.
And you gotta think about, in the 70s, they didn't have the DNA profiling. They didn't have these databases. They didn't have the handwriting. And now they didn't have vein identifying technologies. They didn't have...
People would be able to tell that for me. Like,
they didn't have rape kits. They didn't have all of these things yet. And so as these women's, not just women, I'm sure there's lots of men that contributed to things. I'm not saying just women,
right.
But these particular things that these women developed, we can't deny that they changed a lot of how we find criminals.
And saved a lot of people.
Yes. Gave a lot of victims justice that they deserved.
Got people off the streets.
Yeah. So that's
your story.
All
right. Not really sure how I'm going to top that, Ashley. All right. You have all the links in your show notes.
I will have all the links in the show notes. Again, the docuseries is on Hulu.
Go watch it. It's your homework.
There's a link to the Boston College Magazine article that talks a lot about Anne, but then there's links for the other women also.
And read the book of Martha Goddard. Marty.
Yes. So I will say, they said one reason she also didn't get recognition is because she would use the name Marty and people assumed it was a man, because she knew that if she used her name Martha, she wouldn't even get looked at. And so that was another reason a lot of people assumed it was a man, because she would use Marty versus Martha.
So she got in the rooms.
Yeah.
She knew she had to.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Until then, see something.
Say something.
Say something. And please be kind to one another. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.